I don't know if you've been following, but we have a number of Secret Service mishaps that have been going on. When was the last time you heard a story about the Secret Service that wasn't just something that was, prior to the last 10 years? Something that was strong and that they're top notch. But now you're hearing all these things going on. Somebody's getting involved with somebody. You got people trying to climb the fence at the White House, including one that allowed an intruder to roam free for over 15 minutes on the grounds of the White House. What is going on? A former Secret Service special agent, Robert Caltabiano. Do I have that right, Robert?
Perfect.
Caltabiano. Well, we're from an Italian area, so I think that's Italian. Either way,
yes,
we have you on the air. What is going on with the Secret Service?
Well, I think it's called complacency in many ways. The number one is you have these people. It's nothing new that people try to jump the fence.
Yeah.
What we've been seeing, I think, in the last several years from the prior administration through now is the depth of what these people are doing, how close they're getting to the White House. Like you just said, this person was walking the grounds for several minutes before being detected.
Yeah.
And I don't want to second guess what they're doing out there, but that's got me baffled. We never used to see something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm saying it's got to be a little bit of complacency involved in this.
Are we that far removed from the 1960s, or even from when Reagan was shot in the early 1980s? Those scares seemed to bolster the Secret Service to the point where it was ironclad during those times. Do you agree with that?
I do, and you have to remember, go back in history, under the Kennedy administration, there were only less than 500 Secret Service agents at that time.
Yeah.
I think it was closer to 400, and the pay was not a lot. Right after the president was assassinated, they almost tripled it. And when I was hired in the late 80s, early 90s, there was only about 1,500 of us. And now it's up to over 4,000.
Wow.
So the amount of people, I don't think, is helping. But times have changed. From President Reagan's time to now, we have, the commander-in-chief that travels constantly.
Right.
President Obama was the most traveled president at that time. And so it really puts a wear and tear on the agents, their family lives, and you get tired. That's where the complacency. I can tell you that they put a lot of hours in, and sometimes with little sleep.
I was watching last Friday on, I believe it was Friday on Fox News. There was a former agent, Secret Service agent, that was on Fox News, and said basically, the Secret Service can't keep one person off the grounds. What would they do if there was like a whole bunch, like 40 terrorists, that decided to charge the White House all at once? What would they do?
Well, I could tell you, being in management, that's one of the things is that we want to look at is that there's a lot of people that have a lot of different views on things. But there are plans. I will tell you that. Can't get into the plans. There are plans that, God forbid, that was to happen in the White House. Now, how we're going to react to that, your guess is as good as mine, because it's never been, tried. And so that's the scary part is you can have all these plans, but if you don't follow the plans, guess what? You have chaos.
Yeah.
And, I think that's what he was alluding to.
I ran into a Secret Service agent a while back, a few years ago, who is from this area and was very, very particular about, wouldn't talk about any individual president, would talk positively about them, but was very, very careful about saying anything that he gained while he was in service. Do you agree with that? And do you think that still maintains? Although we do now, every once in a while, have somebody that's coming out and speaking things that have happened behind the scenes. What's the policy?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, number one is, it's an unwritten rule, is that, you don't talk about the personal side of the people that you protect. We've had that, and it makes the mission a lot harder. Imagine for a minute that I'm protecting you for several years, and then all of a sudden somebody, I start talking about your personal issues or your personal things. Mm-hmm. And then guess what? Are you going to want to be around me anymore?
Right.
Yeah, you won't trust me.
There's no trust anymore. So,
Yeah.
and what do you think, too, about, by the way, we're speaking with a former special agent with the Secret Service, Robert Caltabiano, and what do you think? Are we sending out, are we diversifying too much? Because I keep hearing stories that the Secret Service was involved in this case over here, which has nothing to do with the president, and this over here. Should it be one thing, and that is to protect the president, yet there are a lot of other duties that Secret Service takes on?
Yeah, well, the Secret Service has two missions. One is the investigative side. That's what they were started from.
Okay.
And then the protective side. And, you've hit the nail on the head. There is a lot of things floating out there, even up to my time until I retired in management, where I'd have people come to me and say, we just can't do this. We don't have the manpower and we don't have the money to put people out there. And that's the problem that they're facing is, number one, is there's not a lot of funding out there. Number two is we don't have the people to do the job that we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And that's the scary part. Absolutely, you're correct.
Were you personally on presidential duty yourself?
I was. I was with President Bush 41 when he was out of office, and I was in charge of Lady Bird Johnson, our former First Lady, when she passed away. I was running an office here in Texas. And so, you see and you deal with all these personnel issues, and I can tell you that the men and women, you're not doing it for the money.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Anybody in law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is that if they don't, in my opinion, whether Congress, provides more funding, and you're right, really hone in on what is the mission now of the Secret Service. Should it just be protection? Or should it be also, investigation?
Yeah,
and they're going to have to fix that very soon.
My final question for you, the most amazing thing that one could conceive is your duty, and that you would stand in front of a bullet to protect the President of the United States. That's pretty amazing.
Well, you don't think about it. It's the training. It becomes a habit. And, you're not just protecting the individual themselves, whatever, it's the office of the presidency, and it's our country. Without that individual, we have chaos here. So you practice that mentally and physically each and every day, and you just go out and do your job just like a policeman pulls over a car. They're not thinking, and so that's what we do.
Pretty amazing. And Robert, thank you so much for taking the time, and thank you so much for what you have done, the service to this country, to our presidents. I mean, it's really quite incredible, isn't it? How about the knowledge that man has? 7:49, hold tight, coming back at WIBX.